Near the town of Kilcock in County Kildare, Musgrave runs one of its largest distribution centres. And as Chief Supply Chain Officer Luke Hanlon explains, it's a very strategically important part of the business.
The Kilcock site is a 400,000 square foot ambient warehouse, so it acts as one of our primary warehouses in the Republic of Ireland. Every SuperValu and Centra store that we service, of which there are 700 and more, across the Republic of Ireland are serviced from this site.
Luke and I met in a meeting room upstairs in the building, and in this meeting room is a large window which overlooks the very busy warehouse floor.
So what you see outside the window is our stock holding of ambient range. You can hear forklifts beeping and moving around and people milling around. And at this time of the day, the operation is in full flow. There are goods in activities where suppliers are delivering and we're decanting from trailers. We're backhauling from suppliers and that's coming off of loading bays. And at the same time as that's happening, you've got another part of the team that are picking orders for delivery to stores tomorrow.
And while he enjoys the cut and thrust of the supply chain process, that's not the only thing that Luke loves about his work.
It's a privilege of a role, being honest with you, because I get to work with exceptional people right across the business. The supply chain team, the people working in our sales teams and our divisional teams, and the colleagues that they get to work with day to day in the business. So it's a privilege.
And in this episode, we are going to meet some of those people and find out what happens behind the scenes at Musgrave's fascinating supply chain operations. Welcome back to Growing Good Business, a podcast series brought to you by Musgrave. Feeding one in every 3 people on the island of Ireland, as Musgrave does, involves a lot of people, processes and systems. Products need to be delivered from suppliers and stored securely and at the right temperatures. Musgrave customers, such as retail partners, hotels, bars, restaurants and other businesses, need to be able to order these products seamlessly and have them delivered to the right place at the right time and in perfect condition. And this has to happen all day long, every day of every year. Collectively, this is known as supply chain, and it takes a lot of skilled people working together within a finely tuned operation to make it all work properly. And in this episode, we are going to meet some of them.
Remember, the country was shut down at 4 o'clock that Thursday. We were back open here at 5 o'clock. Some of us walked a couple of miles and came in here on the Friday night at midnight, made sure the power was up and running, had pathways cleared for the guys that came in the following morning. It was a great effort. Geez, you'd be so proud.
I was the best picker in the night shift, so after a few weeks, manager told me, can I teach other colleagues to show him how I pick? It was great.
I've been driving all my life. My father was a truck driver, so driving since I was about 10 years old. Yeah, so I had a keen interest in driving from a young age.
We're also going to hear lots more from Luke Hanlon, who heads up Musgrave's supply chain operations, and find out how it all works. Now, this is episode 3 of Growing Good Business, and if you have been enjoying the series so far, please do press that follow button. It's there at the top of your screen if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. And please do tell a colleague or a friend or a family member about the series if you think they might enjoy it too. Either way, we're delighted you can join us here on this episode. So we're going to go back to Luke in the Kilcock Distribution Centre. He started by telling me a bit more about the team involved in Musgrave's supply chain operations.
Yeah, so we have a team of 2,700 people working across 11 distribution centres. That includes our driver team, of which we have about 600 people. We have 1,800 people working in our warehouses, and then the balance of the team work in our planning functions centrally. We distribute a volume of about 170 million cases or boxes, for want of a simpler phrase, of food and beverages. We deliver that to 9,000 customers, and we do that about 1 million times a year, 20,000 times a week. We've got a fleet of 500 vehicles on the road, and that fleet travels about 35 million kilometres a year. It's a 365-day operation from that perspective, managing that flow from supplier all the way through to our customer. It already starts with the customer that you're serving. So we when we think about our supply chain, we always start at that point. And in our case, that's a combination of retailers and food service professionals, businesses of all shapes and sizes. And then the supply chain comes in to meet their needs on a daily basis every day of the year in terms of the food and beverage that they sell. And when we design then the supply chain from that point backwards, through our transport fleet back into our warehouse operations and our replenishment team who work with our suppliers. So at the customer end, there's obviously a very significant operational aspect to their supply chain. So if you think about a typical SuperValu or a Centra store, there's a lot that goes on there in terms of food preparation and ordering product into their store. So that's where it starts, and that's driven by their understanding of the customer and that demand day by day, week by week. Every customer of ours has to tailor their offering for their local customer, and nobody knows that better than they do. And that changes from day to day and week to week or season to season. So if you take a SuperValu in Ballybunion, for example, their requirements of us as a supply chain in the middle of the summer are very different to what they require from us in November. So everything from a supply chain perspective starts with that demand. So they'll submit their orders to us electronically in the case of our retail partners. That'll come into our replenishment team. We then consolidate all of those orders for the different products up into one large order, if you like, which then we share through an electronic link to our suppliers. For some products, we'll hold stock in our warehouses to meet the demand. In other cases where the product is very fresh, we've got to order that on a flow-through basis from our fresh suppliers. And our replenishment team manages that relationship and that flow of goods into our warehouses. And we pick the product and deliver it from there. And so is vastly different in terms of when a store can expect to get the order that they put in on a Monday, for example? Or so if you take our retail business, lead time would be day one for day three. So if a store orders a product middle of the day on Monday, they'll have it by Wednesday morning. And our food service business is a slightly different model. And our customers can order up until late at night for delivery the following day. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's very responsive. Yeah, and so the process must be incredibly tight and efficient and polished. Down to the minute, yeah. So we've got a very established flow at this stage, but it requires planning, it requires a level of resourcing, understanding what the requirement is likely to be. So we're constantly scanning the future to understand what do we need to forecast by way of resources, what do we need to forecast by way of stock holding, so that we can meet that need when it comes. So we would deliver a service level to our customers of between 98 and 99% pretty consistently. Yeah. So you seem very relaxed, but you're in a very high pressured role. It's actually, do you know what? It's a privilege of a role, being honest with you, because I get to work with exceptional people right across the business. When I think about the supply chain team, the people working in our sales teams and our divisional teams, our customers, like they're at the heart of their local community, and it's a buzz to work with them. And the colleagues that they get to work with day to day in the business, so it's a privilege. Is there such a thing as a typical traits and characteristics of somebody who excels within supply chain specifically? Yeah, I would say there's a combination, and sometimes these skills don't naturally sit together. But my experience, and I've been with the company for 20 years, the people who are most successful in the function are those that can combine good people skills, be able to build and maintain very, very good open relationships with people, but also there is a technical aspect of supply chain. There is the planning piece, there's being able to look out into the future, understand what's likely to happen next, the use of data, the kind of relentless closing out of actions day to day. So there's a people element and a technical element, and I think the people that I have experienced who've been more successful have a combination of both.
During the day that I spent at the Kilcock Distribution Centre, I met some of the over 400 colleagues that work there. One of those was David Keane.
Hi, I'm David Keane, manager for the Distribution Centre Kilcock. To be fair to the management team, the trainers, the guys that are working on picking and driving the forks, they know how important it is to the retailer to get the product out. It's their business, it's their livelihood. They've got staff, they've got customers of their own. So that value that comes from senior management and people like Luke, etc., it has just immersed itself into the operation. Everybody's really bought into it, that it's important to service the retailer, it's important to do it right. Try not to create the waste, try not to make mistakes. People make mistakes in life, but it's such a busy environment. Our level of accuracy is almost 100%, and we're never late. We're always picking on time. We like to try and stay about a half a day ahead of the schedule here, so the product is ready and it's in the trailers ready to go. And to be fair, the challenge that came with the beast from the east and all the various storms, we were the first depot here in the country to be open. We were back open at 5 a.m. on the start of the morning. I remember the country was shut down at 4 o'clock that Thursday. we were back open here at 5 o'clock. Some of us walked a couple of miles and came in here on the Friday night at midnight, made sure the power was up and running, had pathways cleared for the guys that came in the following morning. It was a great effort. Geez, you'd be so proud of what, the lengths that some people would go to, which for what is effectively their job, it just shows you how much people buy into the culture and the values of the organisation. That was a really good time, and to be the first in the country back open. COVID was tough times for the depot. To have so many people working here, and you were always very conscious that shops were reliant on you. You were always concerned that if a big outbreak of COVID took hold, you could end up not being able to supply shops, and that was a huge fear. But we never fell behind. Massive volumes. I remember I think it was about 4 days after COVID, that March. I don't remember the exact date, but I think our volume hit 80% increase for a day or two. It's like something you only see when there's a new mobile phone hits the market or something. We would not normally have those type of growth levels, and we coped. We had to get RTE to come in and do a broadcast news here to tell people to calm down, look at the racks. There is supplies of toilet roll, it's okay, and there is flour and whatever. And it was tough on people. People at the time were coming to work, going home, and their families were concerned too. Are you okay? When you were mixing with people learned some lessons from COVID as well about how important it was to make sure that there is more disengagement that we lost during that. So we've come out of it very strong, actually, to be fair.
I know you went recently out on a bit of a trip in the truck to see what happens.
I did indeed. It was a fantastic morning, actually. It was in my own local neck of the woods, west of Cork City, where I'm from. We headed out that morning early, and there was 18 drops on the food service route out of the Cork side, and we visited a range of customers that was hard to believe, actually, when you take a second and think about it. We delivered to a creche, a third level college, a Chinese takeaway, a pub, a Circle K outlet, a Daybreak store, a Centra store, and a Subway outlet. They're the ones that come to mind of the 18. So each one of those customers, very, very different requirement of us. But what really struck me was that the driver I was with on the day knew intimately what was required in each location, had built that relationship, and ensured that he met the customer's needs wherever we went. Every premises is different, and what the customer wants in every premises is different. So in some cases, the product has to be taken upstairs and left in a fridge or a freezer. In other cases, the person wants the product left on a cage that we deliver on. And the driver has that intimate knowledge of what each customer wants. And it's hard to document that stuff. That comes down to local knowledge, really.
Derek Hunt has been a driver with Musgrave since 2017. I met him during my visit to the distribution centre, and he started by describing what a typical day is like.
We come into work in the morning, all the trailers are ready to go. We just check the loads and out the gate and go and deliver to the stores. Most days we'd be doing a delivery to store, we could be coming back, doing collections, bringing stock back into the warehouse, or we could be collecting combis from stores.
And how long have you been a driver?
Well, I've been driving all my life. My father was a truck driver, so driving since I was about 10 years old. Yeah, so I had a keen interest in driving from a young age. I did a little bit of work around home, and then I did Europe, and then I came back in 2017.
Ah, right. Yeah. So you're keeping it closer to home now.
Yeah, start a family, build a house, and time to get serious.
So then during I've heard tell that, say during some of the Storm Ophelia and Storm Emma and all that kind of stuff, you might have to be bringing a chainsaw out in case there's a tree in front of you or whatever.
Some of the lads had that. They had great help when the snow was there. They had great help from the public when they got stuck, and there was jeeps and tractors and everything out, pulling them out of places. But they wanted the bread too,
What do you love about your job?
I like the flexibility, the rosters. We get a roster for a year, so we know exactly what days we're working for a year. Also, the start times, they're not set in stone. You have a day's work to do. You have maybe an hour, half an hour leeway in the time you can come in. You know what time you're going home. You know how long your day is going to take you. You get an email every day to say what your work is. You know what you're doing you know, pretty much know your role for the day.
So could you be delivering to Super Values or Centras or even some of the sort of partner stores that you do distribution for?
Well, we do Super Value and Centra. Funny story, one day I was backing into a shop, it was a Super Value, and I had a Centra trailer, and a young guy comes up and he says, "You're at the wrong shop, you need to go."
What are some of the key things you need to know to be a good driver?
Just to be prepared. When you get to a shop, you need to know what side to come from, if it's the left hand side or the right hand side, to make it easier for you to get into that shop. And if you know that before you get there, that's 90% of it, you know. You can be as good a driver as you want to be. If you approach it from the wrong side, you're not going to get nowhere. And like, that's where the older drivers here, they're helping the newer drivers coming in, and it just makes it so much easier for them.
A successful supply chain depends on having skilled and hard-working colleagues, all working together in high-performing teams. As Chief Supply Chain Officer, I was interested in how Luke Hanlon goes about building a team like this. You would have a big role in trying to put together productive, happy, successful teams. How do you think about that? How do you go about it? Do you take inspiration from sport? Do you look at other areas?
Yeah, many of my colleagues will be tired of sports analogies at this stage, but I certainly do. I think there's a direct read across between how sporting teams set themselves up and how they deliver success and how businesses do. I think it's very similar. It's more similar than it is different. And for me, you need to have a set of capabilities in your team, and I focus on that a lot. But you also need to have a gelling, a compatibility, people who share similar values. Even though they may come from very diverse backgrounds, there has to be kind of points of commonality, and in Musgrave a lot of that comes down to the company values. And I can look at my team and their teams, and I can see the values kind of, you know, very much ingrained in their DNA and how they approach their job, how they make decisions, how they show up at work. And again, linking back to the sports analogy, that also is consistent of high-performing teams. And I see my role as a leader of a supply chain team is to create the right environment for those teams to prosper, and that's how I focus my time.
And what is the right environment? Like, what are the characteristics of a successful environment?
I would say a very open environment where people can share their views. They can share challenges as challenges arise. Where there is a real understanding at a deep level as to what the purpose of the team is actually about. Because in times of challenge, that comes to the fore, and we've seen over the years, for different reasons, be it weather events, pandemics, whatever, we've seen where challenges can bring that purpose to the fore for people. I think constantly holding a mirror up for myself and the team in terms of what we can do differently, what we can do better, maybe taking an outside-in view in terms of benchmarking against other leading organisations. I think all of those are ingredients around creating that right environment for teams to succeed, and then recognising and celebrating that success when it happens.
Alongside building a high-performing team, Luke also works hard on process improvement. He's always trying to find new ways to make Musgrave's supply chain operation even more responsive, rapid and finely tuned. One of the most recent initiatives in this area is a major investment into automation. Luke explains.
There are probably two parts to the building, really. There's the original building, we'll call it, and then there's the extension that we have just come online recently. And we've introduced for the first time some semi-automated solutions in that part of the site. And that has just gone live after a ramp-up period and is going very well. The topic of kind of automation and process improvement and efficiency, that has been an ever-present in supply chain. You know, as long as I've been involved in operations and for many decades before it, people have always been looking for the next improvement. I think what has happened in the last couple of years is warehouse robotic automation and artificial intelligence as two examples. They have become more widespread and more prominent. The timing of those, from our perspective, is excellent because the labour market is challenging, and it has been since the pandemic, and our business is in growth. So we need those solutions to fuel our growth ambition and to ensure we can resource our operation. And I'm glad to say that's working well. I think there's also a natural concern that people have when they think about automation, because at times people say it's kind of automation or people. I view them very much as being connected, and it's an and rather than an or. And our approach is to ensure that as we introduce technological improvements or improvements of any kind, that we don't leave anybody behind. And that has been our experience in this site here even in the last 6 months.
During my visit to Kilcock, site manager David Keane took me on a tour of the new extension and showed me the fascinating process of orders being picked automatically for SuperValu and Centra customers. Now, Dave uses a couple of technical terms to describe what we're seeing, but essentially we are witnessing an incredible amount of cases moving automatically around a vast network of rails and shelves. They are then being automatically filled with products that have been ordered by customers before being collected and delivered to them.
We take goods in like you normally would take goods in over here, okay? And then we stage them here, and then we feed them into the cases, into the totes here. This is called decanting, and we have 3 stations, 6 people. There's 62,000 totes up here. There's 2 shuttles on each layer. The shuttles recharge when they get to about 60%, and the idea of that is then they're very much literally a 1 minute charge, as against bringing them right down and they take 30 minutes to recharge. So it's literally, the whole idea is the battery lasts longer, quick snappy charge. So this decanting process here is very much just feeding product in.
As I watched this fascinating process taking place, what really jumped out to me was the speed at which these cases were moving around the various parts of the building. David explained what this means in terms of productivity.
We're picking at the minute 400 to 500 cases per hour. But for that product, normally, on the traditional warehouse, we'd be about 130 cases per hour. So that's the difference in the pick. Pick accuracy is 100%. All the tests back that up. It's 100%. Less damage, so you have savings and upside on inventory, damage. So for the retailer, which is very important, they don't have to worry about this product when it gets to a store. Whatever has been ordered has been picked. So that's a very nice position to be in for the retailer. So it's so far we're up and running at this level now about 3 weeks, and it's been fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Earlier in this episode, Luke and I spoke about building high-performing teams. But how important is diversity and inclusion when it comes to putting together these teams? I asked him if this is an important part of his role.
Absolutely, and you know, I'm glad to say that over the last few years we've made real strides in that area. And I guess when you think about the word diversity, it has a number of different aspects to it. So if I take, for example, gender, typically in the Irish market, in supply chain operations, it has tended to be a fairly male-dominated function. I'm glad to say that in the last couple of years we've made real strides there. So we're now at a point where we're heading for 10% female participation from a very low base, as in less than 1% not that long ago. And I think there's a lot more in that. And as we set our targets for the years ahead, we will be pushing forward on that road and making sure that our roles are attractive to female candidates.
And how do you go about trying to show that?
To be honest, there's a cultural aspect to it in Ireland. I think there's a default view that to work in a warehouse you need to be male, and we have some fantastic female colleagues working in our locations that disprove that, frankly. So it's about making sure that we bring visibility to that, bring understanding to that. And I think the other thing that we're doing well is we're almost taking a site-by-site approach to it. So a location nearby here in Blanchardstown has made the most progress in this area. And I think once you get a bit of momentum on introducing gender diversity, it takes on a life of its own, and it's in a much better place because of that. When I think about the cultural diversity and the nationalities of people working in the business, we have 50 nationalities, not including Corkonians, in the business at this stage, and that's been fantastic. You know, if you walk around the site here, you'll meet people from a host of different countries, and that has brought some real value and a point of difference to our business.
Now, as we were out on the warehouse floor in Kilcock, I met Sandra Toady, and she explained a little bit about her role.
I start in Blanch, in Musgrave warehouse, about 8 months ago. I start there like a picker. I was passed through the training. 2 weeks. I pick in ambient. I pick in chill as well. So it was good. And after that, I was picking. I was in the night shift. It was great for me. After a few months, I was also was in training for chemicals. Like chemicals. That was training a few days, and it was very good as well. So it was like an occasion for the first time to come here in Kilcock. So I said yes, why not? Because I like challenges.
Yes.
It was pretty much challenge, and after 2 weeks, it was great for me. It was a new experience, the same story, but a new experience. In the night shift, managers are very great. I was the best speaker in the night shift on Adapto, so okay. So after
are you fastest?
Yes, the fastest. Yes, I'm fastest. So after a few weeks, manager told me, can I teach other colleagues? Yes, to show him how I pick. It was great. So, and now I'm the morning shift, helping with managers and with my colleagues. So, it's great.
And you're from Croatia, and there's
Yes.
lots of your colleagues are from different countries too.
Yes, they are from Poland. They are from Spain as well, Argentina as well, from everywhere, from the world. And we are getting along. We speak on English. We are getting along here about the business. Very good, very good.
What's the challenging part of working in supply chain, and what's the rewarding part of working in supply chain?
There's one answer which is kind of covers both, which is the unpredictability of it. So literally no 2 days or 2 weeks are the same. The way the operation is it runs like a drumbeat. It's constantly moving. The processes are fairly set. The environment that we operate in, though, is always changing, and the experience of the last few years has really kind of brought that home. So that variety, the fact that there's always something to work on, to improve, to solve, and driven by the fact that at the end of our supply chain, or at the start of our supply chain in many ways, is a set of customers that are dependent on how we do what we do. That's very rewarding, and it's also the biggest challenge in the role. On the other example I would give is I get to work with exceptional people every day of the week on the customer side, across the business in terms of the different divisional teams, the different functional teams, my own team in supply chain, across all the levels, our drivers, our warehouse teams, our replenishment teams, our facilities teams, our management team. They're a fantastic bunch of people, and that is very rewarding. So I guess delivering special outcomes with special people is a really rewarding part of what I get to do every day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Growing Good Business. If you're enjoying the series so far, please press the follow button on whatever platform you're listening to the show, and I hope that you can come back and join us for the next episode.